The warning lights flashed red across the command center of the Dalvex Empire's outer monitoring station. Sensor operator Crix stared at his screen, his three eyes widening in disbelief. Something massive had just appeared at the edge of their territory, and the readings made no sense. "Sir, you need to see this," Crix called out to his supervisor. Within minutes, the alert traveled up the chain of command. It reached the Imperial High Command on the capital world of Dalvex Prime in less than an hour. Supreme Commander Thelvrax, a tall being with gray skin and sharp features, stood before the massive display screen in the war room. Around him, dozens of military officers and advisors gathered, all staring at the same impossible data. "How many ships?" Thelvrax demanded. "Our count shows 50,000, Supreme Commander," answered General Vex, the head of Imperial Intelligence. "But that number seems too large to be accurate." "Check again," Thelvrax ordered. They checked. The number was correct. 50,000 warships had appeared at the edge of Imperial space, each one massive beyond anything in their records. The energy signatures coming from those ships showed power levels and made their best dreadnoughts look like children's toys. "Where did they come from?" Thelvrax asked. His voice was calm, but everyone in the room could sense his worry. "Unknown, sir. They appeared suddenly, as if they folded space itself. We've never seen technology capable of such precision at this scale." General Vex explained. The Dalvex Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. They controlled 40,000 star systems. Their fleet numbered in the millions of ships. They had defeated every enemy, absorbed every rival civilization. No one challenged them anymore. No one dared dot until now. "Send a scout team," Thelvrax ordered. "I want to know who they are and what they want. And mobilize the 3rd and 5th fleets. Have them ready to respond." Captain Yuna received her orders within the hour. She was young for a captain, only 30 cycles old, but she had proven herself in several border conflicts. Her ship, the Swift Hunter, was one of the Empire's fastest reconnaissance vessels. She and her crew of 20 were perfect for this mission. "We're going to take a look at the unknown fleet," Yuna told her crew as they prepared for departure. "Stay alert. If they're hostile, we need to get information back to command." Her science officer, Minho, was already working at his station. He was a thin, nervous being from one of the Empire's conquered worlds. His people were known for their intelligence and scientific skills. "Captain, I've been studying the sensor data from the monitoring station," Minho said. "These ships? Their technology is far beyond ours. The energy shields alone are generating power that should be impossible." "Nothing is impossible, Minho," Yuna replied. "Just unexpected." The Swift Hunter left the station and jumped into faster-than-light travel. The journey to the edge of Imperial space would take 2 days. During that time, more reports came in. The mysterious fleet was moving, slowly but deliberately, deeper into Imperial territory. They weren't responding to any communication attempts. They weren't showing any signs of hostility. They just moved forward, like a massive shadow spreading across the stars. Back on Dalvex Prime, panic was setting in. The Imperial Council met in emergency session. Representatives from all the major species of the Empire argued and shouted at each other. They must be the Krelthin. One council member insisted. They disappeared 5,000 years ago. Perhaps they've returned. Impossible, another replied. The Krelthin were destroyed. Their worlds are dead. We verified it ourselves. Then who could build such a fleet? A third voice asked. No one had an answer. The Empire's vast databases contained information on every known civilization in the galaxy. None of them had the technology to build what they were seeing. It was as if these ships had appeared from another universe entirely. Supreme Commander Thelvrax knew he had to act. He ordered the mobilization of not just 2 fleets, but 10. Over 2 million warships began moving toward the location of the unknown Armada. It was the largest military movement in Imperial history. Captain Yuna's ship finally reached the coordinates. She ordered her crew to drop out of faster-than-light travel at a safe distance. When they did, everyone on the bridge fell silent. The unknown fleet stretched before them like a wall of metal and light. The ships were enormous, each one at least 5 times the size of an Imperial dreadnought. They were arranged in perfect formation, moving together as if controlled by a single mind. Their hulls were dark, almost black, but they seemed to shimmer with some kind of energy field. "By the void," Yuna whispered. "I've never seen anything like this." "Captain, they're scanning us," Mingel reported. "The scan is. It's going right through our shields. They're reading everything about our ship, our systems, our weapons, even our biological signatures. Can we block it?" Yuna asked. "No, Captain. Whatever technology they're using, it's far beyond our ability to counter." Yuna made a decision. She opened all communication channels. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Yuna of the Dalvex Empire Scout Division. You have entered Imperial space. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." For a long moment, there was no response. Then suddenly, a signal came through. It was audio and video, transmitted on frequencies that the Swift Hunter systems had to adjust to receive. A face appeared on the main screen. It was a human face. Yuna stared in confusion. She knew about humans. Everyone in the Empire did. They were a young species from a small blue planet on the other side of the galaxy. The Empire had made contact with them about 200 years ago. They were primitive, barely capable of faster-than-light travel. They had a handful of colonies and a small fleet of outdated ships. The Empire's database classified them as a Class D civilization, hardly worth paying attention to. But the woman on the screen wore a military uniform that looked advanced and professional. Behind her, Yuna could see a bridge that was filled with technology that made Imperial systems look ancient. "This is Admiral Gina of the Terran United Fleet," the woman said. Her voice was calm and confident. "You have entered claimed space. State your intentions." Yuna's mind raced. Terran. That was the human word for their homeworld. But this couldn't be right. Humans didn't have the technology to build ships like these. They didn't have fleets that numbered in the tens of thousands. Something was very, very wrong. "Admiral Gina," Yuna said carefully. "I am here on a reconnaissance mission for the Dalvex Empire. We detected your fleet and wish to establish communication. Can you please clarify what you mean by claimed space? This region has been part of the Empire for thousands of years." Admiral Gina's expression didn't change. "That may have been true once. It isn't anymore. This region is now under Terran protection. We suggest your Empire adjusts its maps accordingly." The transmission ended. Yuna sat back in her command chair, her mind spinning. She needed to report this immediately. But who would believe her? Humans with an advanced fleet? It seemed impossible. Yet the evidence was right in front of her. 50,000 ships strong. Captain Yuna sent a report back to Imperial High Command, using the fastest communication method available. She included every scan, every image, and every recording of her encounter with the mysterious fleet. Then she waited for orders, keeping her ship at a safe distance from the human armada. On Dalvex Prime, Supreme Commander Thelvrax read Yuna's report 3 times. Each time, he became more frustrated. Humans? Impossible. The last report from the Empire's observers near Earth showed that humanity was still struggling with basic interstellar colonization. Their largest warship was barely the size of an Imperial corvette. "This must be some kind of trick," Thelvrax said to his council. Perhaps another species is using human avatars to deceive us. Or perhaps the humans made a deal with a more advanced race. General Vex disagreed. Sir, our scout scans show that the ships themselves have biological signatures consistent with humans. The air inside those vessels contains oxygen and nitrogen at levels suitable for human life. The crew appears to be genuinely human. Then explain to me how a primitive species suddenly developed technology that surpasses our own, Thelvrax demanded. They couldn't have done this in 200 years. It's not possible. While the Imperial leaders argued, Captain Yuna received new orders. She was to request permission to board one of the human ships and verify their identity. She was to bring Minho and 2 security officers. They would carry scanning equipment to analyze everything they could. Yuna sent the request to Admiral Gina. To her surprise, the human admiral agreed immediately. Coordinates were transmitted for a docking bay on one of the smaller vessels in the fleet. They're very confident, Minho observed as they prepared to leave the Swift Hunter. They're not worried about letting us see their ship. That concerns me, Yuna admitted. Either they're foolish, or they know we're not a threat. The shuttle carried them across the void between ships. As they approached the human vessel, Yuna got a closer look at its construction. The hull was made of materials she didn't recognize. The energy shields rippled with power. Every sensor reading suggested technology that was centuries ahead of Imperial science. They landed in a docking bay that was clean, efficient, and filled with equipment that Minho couldn't identify. A group of humans waited for them. They wore military uniforms, and they were armed, but they didn't appear hostile. A man stepped forward. He was tall, with dark hair and calm eyes. Welcome aboard the carrier Indomitable. I'm Captain Taiyang. Admiral Gina asked me to show you around and answer your questions. Yuna and her team followed Captain Taiyang through the corridors of the ship. Everything was strange. The lighting was different from Imperial ships. The air had a slightly different smell. The humans they passed all looked at the visitors with curiosity, but not fear. How many people serve on this ship? Yuna asked. About 5,000, Taiyang replied. It's one of our larger carriers. 5,000 crew on a single ship. That was more than some Imperial bases. Yuna's mind struggled to process the scale of what she was seeing. They entered a conference room, where Admiral Gina waited with several other officers. Gina gestured for them to sit. I imagine you have many questions, Gina said. Where did all this come from? Yuna asked directly. 200 years ago, your species barely had functional faster-than-light drives. Now you have a fleet that could challenge the entire Empire. What happened? Admiral Gina exchanged glances with her officers. Then she began to explain. 2 centuries ago, by your calendar, a human colony ship called the Long March left Earth. It was carrying 50,000 colonists to a new world. The ship was equipped with the best technology we had at the time, which, as you correctly noted, was primitive. Something went wrong. The ship encountered an anomaly in space, a wormhole that wasn't on any of our charts. Gina paused, her expression becoming serious. The wormhole pulled the Long March in. When we came out the other side, we were on the far edge of the galaxy, thousands of light years from Earth. And something else had happened. Time had changed for us. Time dilation, Minho whispered. You were caught in a temporal anomaly. Gina nodded. Exactly. While 200 years passed in the rest of the galaxy, 2,000 years passed for us. We were alone, cut off from Earth, from any help. We had to survive on our own. The room fell silent. Yuna tried to imagine it. 50,000 humans, trapped in an unknown part of space, with no one to help them. What did you do? Yuna asked. Captain Taiyang spoke up. We adapted. We had no choice. We found a habitable system and established colonies. We had scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers. We had everything we needed to build a civilization. And we had time. 2,000 years of time. Another officer, a woman named Commander Sora, continued the story. Without the ability to contact Earth or trade with other species, we had to develop our own technology from scratch. We couldn't copy or steal from others. We had to innovate. And we did. We made mistakes, Admiral Gina added. Many mistakes? We had wars among ourselves. We nearly destroyed our colonies twice. But we learned. We grew. And we developed technology that allowed us to thrive. Minho was scanning everything with his equipment. His hands were shaking with excitement. Captain Yuna, these readings? The materials alone represent breakthroughs in quantum engineering that our Empire scientists have been trying to achieve for centuries. And this is just one ship. We decided to return home, Gina said. It took us 50 years to develop technology that could safely navigate back across the galaxy. When we finally made the journey, we discovered that only 200 years had passed. The Earth we returned to was almost the same as the one we left. Our descendants on Earth didn't even know we had survived. And you built all of this? Yuna asked, gesturing at the ship around them. 50,000 ships? We had 50,000 colonists originally, Captain Taiyang explained. After 2,000 years, our population grew to over 3 billion. We have the industrial capacity to build fleets of this size. What you see here is just one of our expeditionary forces. The implications made Yuna's head spin. If this was just one expeditionary force, how many more ships did humanity have? How powerful had they become? A new officer entered the room. He was introduced as Commander Do-Yun, the fleet's intelligence specialist. He carried a datapad and looked concerned. Admiral, our scouts report that the Dalvex Empire is mobilizing a massive fleet. Current count is approaching 2 million ships. They're converging on our position. Admiral Gina's expression didn't change. How long until they arrive? 4 days, Admiral. Thank you, Commander. Gina turned back to Yuna. It seems your empire has decided to treat us as a threat. Yuna felt embarrassed. The Empire. We have protocols. When an unknown force enters our territory, we respond with strength. 2 million ships against 50,000, Taiyang observed. Your leaders believe numbers will win, won't they? Yuna asked. The human officers looked at each other. None of them answered directly. Admiral Gina stood. Captain Yuna, I want you to return to your ship. I want you to take detailed scans of everything you've seen here. I want you to report honestly to your superiors. Tell them that we don't want war. Tell them that we only want to establish peaceful relations and reclaim territory that humanity has a right to. And if they don't listen? Yuna asked. Gina's eyes became hard. Then tell them that humanity has survived 2,000 years alone in the dark. We faced every challenge, every disaster, every threat. We're not the same species you met 200 years ago. We're stronger now. Much stronger. Yuna and her team returned to their shuttle. As they flew back to the Swift Hunter, Minho reviewed all the scans he had taken. Captain, this changes everything, Minho said quietly. If humans can do this, if they can advance this far in isolation, what does that mean for the Empire? We've always believed we were the peak of civilization. But maybe we're not. Yuna didn't respond. She was thinking about the humans she had met. They were calm, confident, and prepared. They didn't seem afraid of the massive Imperial fleet heading their way. That worried her more than anything else. The Imperial High Command didn't believe Captain Yuna's report. Even with all the scans, all the evidence, Supreme Commander Thelvrax remained convinced that this was impossible. He ordered Yuna to return to the human fleet with a delegation of scientists and diplomats. They would verify everything. 3 days later, a larger Imperial vessel arrived carrying 50 of the Empire's best minds. There were physicists, engineers, biologists, and cultural experts. They all believed they would expose whatever trick the humans were playing. Admiral Gina welcomed them aboard the flagship of the human fleet. The ship was named the Defiance, and it was enormous. The Imperial delegation walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. They saw human crew members working at stations, maintaining equipment, going about their daily routines. Everything seemed normal, except for the technology. The technology was anything but normal. The chief Imperial scientist was named Dr. Velk. He was old, even by his species' long-lived standards, and he had seen many wonders in his life. But nothing prepared him for what the humans showed him. In the engineering section of the Defiance, a young human woman named Suji explained the ship's power systems. She spoke in simple terms, as if teaching children. "We use zero-point energy extraction," Suji said, pointing to a massive reactor that hummed with barely contained power. "We pull energy directly from the quantum vacuum. It's completely clean, completely sustainable, and provides essentially unlimited power." Dr. Velk stared at the reactor. Zero-point energy was theoretical. His people had been trying to harness it for over 1,000 years. They had never succeeded. Yet here was a human, barely 30 years old by her appearance, casually explaining how they had not only solved the problem, but made it practical. "How long did it take you to develop this?" Dr. Velk asked. "The breakthrough came about 800 years ago," Suji replied. "We've been refining it ever since." 800 years. The humans had been working on this technology, while the Empire was still conquering primitive worlds and absorbing their resources. The Empire had never needed to innovate because they could always take what they wanted from others. In another section of the ship, Imperial military experts examined the weapon systems. What they saw terrified them. The humans had developed particle beam weapons that could cut through any known shield. They had missiles that could fold space and appear inside enemy ships. They had defensive systems that could predict attacks before they happened. How is any of this possible? One of the Imperial officers demanded. Captain Taiyang, who was conducting the tour, smiled slightly. "Necessity. When you're alone in the dark with no one to help you, you learn to help yourself. When you can't steal technology from conquered species, you have to invent your own. When you can't rely on numbers, you have to rely on quality." The Imperial delegation spent 2 full days examining everything the humans would show them. At the end of it, they had to accept the truth. These were humans. Real humans. Not aliens in disguise, not ancient beings pretending to be human. They were the descendants of the Long March colony ship, and they had achieved in isolation what the entire Empire had failed to achieve with 40,000 star systems worth of resources. Dr. Velk wrote his report carefully. He knew it would shock the Imperial Council, but he had to be honest. The humans have surpassed us in nearly every technological field. Their material science is centuries ahead of ours. Their energy systems are more efficient by orders of magnitude. Their propulsion technology allows for precision jumps that we cannot match. Most concerning, their artificial intelligence systems are far more advanced than anything we have, yet they maintain complete control over them. They have solved problems we are still struggling with. The report reached Dalvex Prime just as the Imperial Armada was preparing to engage the human fleet. Supreme Commander Thelvrax read it in his command center, surrounded by his generals and admirals. For the first time in his long career, he felt genuine fear. "If this report is accurate," General Vex said carefully, "then our fleet may not be enough." 2 million ships against 50,000, Thelvrax replied. Numbers must count for something. But doubt had entered his mind. He called a private meeting with his closest advisors. In that meeting, away from the lower ranks, he spoke his true thoughts. If these humans are as advanced as the reports claim, direct confrontation may be foolish, Felvrax admitted. But we cannot appear weak. The Empire has never backed down from a challenge. If we retreat now, it will encourage every conquered species to rebel. One of his advisors, an intelligence officer named Kellan, spoke up. Then perhaps we should strike first, Supreme Commander. A preemptive attack, before they can bring more forces. Destroy them now while we have numerical superiority. The idea was tempting. Dangerous, but tempting. If the humans were eliminated quickly, the Empire would face no future threat. But if the attack failed, the consequences could be catastrophic. Felvrax made his decision. Order the fleet to prepare for attack. We strike in 12 hours. Target their command ships first. If we can eliminate their leadership, the rest may surrender. The orders went out. 2 million Imperial warships moved into attack positions. The crews prepared their weapons and shields. In the war rooms across the fleet, officers planned their strategies. They would hit the humans hard and fast, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. Aboard the Defiance, Commander Doyun detected the Imperial fleet's movements. He immediately reported to Admiral Hyan, the overall commander of the human expeditionary force. Hyan was an older man, with gray hair and eyes that had seen 2 lifetimes' worth of experience. They're preparing to attack, Doyun reported. The Imperial fleet is moving into offensive formation. Strike will likely come within the next 12 hours. Admiral Hyan sat in his command chair, looking at the tactical display. 2 million red dots, representing enemy ships, surrounded the 50,000 blue dots of his fleet. Any normal commander would see this as hopeless. Admiral Hyan saw it as an opportunity. Call a council of war, Hyan ordered. Admiral Gina, Captain Taiyang, Commander Sora, General Juno. I want all senior officers present. The meeting took place in the Defiance's war room. The human commanders gathered around a holographic display showing both fleets. Everyone knew what was coming. They're going to attack, Hyan said simply. The Empire has decided that we're too dangerous to tolerate. They're going to try to destroy us. We could retreat, Admiral Gina suggested. Jump away, avoid the battle entirely. And let them think they scared us off? General Junho replied. The general was in charge of the fleet's marine forces. He was a practical man who believed in direct action. If we run now, they'll chase us forever. Better to stand and show them what we're capable of. Commander Sora, the tactical specialist, was studying the display. We're outnumbered 40-1, but their ships are inferior. Our simulations show that one of our capital ships can handle approximately 50 of theirs before shields fail. Our fighters are faster and more maneuverable. Our weapons have better range and penetration, so we can win? Taiyang asked. We can win, Sora confirmed. But it will be costly. We'll lose ships. We'll lose people. Admiral Hyan considered his options. He thought about the 50,000 colonists who had left Earth 2,000 years ago. He thought about all the generations that had lived and died building this fleet. He thought about humanity's long journey through the darkness. We didn't come all this way to run from a fight, Hyan said finally. But we also didn't come here to commit genocide. When the battle starts, I want a clear message sent to every Imperial ship. We will defend ourselves, but we will accept their surrender. Any ship that stands down will not be harmed. That's generous, considering they're about to try to kill us, General Juno observed. It's not generosity, Hyan replied. It's strategy. We need the Empire to see that we're not conquerors. We're not like them. We're something better. Captain Yuna, who had been allowed to attend the meeting as an observer, felt torn. Her loyalty was to the Empire, but she had seen what the humans were capable of. She had walked their ships, talked to their people, seen their technology. More importantly, she had seen their character. They were not monsters. They were not aggressive invaders. They were survivors who had earned their strength through hardship. She made a decision that would change her life. Admiral Hyan, I want to request asylum. I don't want to fight against your fleet. I believe the Empire is making a terrible mistake. Hyan looked at her with understanding eyes. Granted, Captain Yuna. You and any of your crew who wish to stay are welcome here. The council ended. The officers returned to their ships to prepare. In 12 hours, the battle would begin. The Empire was about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. The Imperial Armada struck without warning. 2 million ships opened fire simultaneously, their weapons creating a wall of energy that lit up the darkness of space. Supreme Commander Thelvrax watched from his flagship, confident that the sheer volume of fire would overwhelm the human defenses. He was wrong. The human fleet's shields activated, and something impossible happened. The massive barrage of Imperial weapons fire hit the defensive screens and simply stopped. The energy was absorbed, redirected, or dissipated. Not a single human ship took damage from the opening attack. What? Thelvrax stared at his displays in disbelief. Fire again. All ships, continuous fire. The Imperial fleet poured everything they had into the attack. Plasma cannons, missile barrages, particle beams, kinetic weapons. Every weapon in the Empire's arsenal was used. The space between the two fleets became a storm of destructive energy. The human shields held. Aboard the Defiance, Admiral Hyan watched calmly as the tactical display showed the Empire's desperate assault. Commander Sora stood beside him, monitoring the shield strength across the fleet. Shields holding at 97% capacity, Sora reported. The Imperial weapons are barely scratching us. Return fire, Hyan ordered. Target their weapon systems only. Disable, don't destroy. The human fleet responded. Their weapons were different from anything the Empire had seen. Beams of coherent particles lanced across space, striking Imperial ships with surgical precision. Each hit disabled weapon arrays without destroying the ships themselves. Within minutes, hundreds of Imperial vessels were floating helplessly, their offensive capabilities gone, but their crews unharmed. Admiral, they're targeting our weapons. General Vex reported to Thelvrax. They're disabling our ships without destroying them. Then they're fools, Thelvrax growled. All ships ramming speed. If we can't shoot them, we'll crash into them. It was a desperate tactic, but with 2 million ships, even ramming attacks could be effective. The Imperial fleet accelerated toward the human formation. Commander Sora saw it coming. They're going for physical collision. Shall I activate countermeasures? Yes, Hyan replied. But keep casualties to minimum. The human ships began to move. Not slowly, not carefully, but with impossible precision and speed. They folded space around themselves, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. Imperial ships that had been on a collision course suddenly found themselves ramming into empty space, or worse, into other Imperial ships. Captain Seungho led one of the human fighter wings into the battle. His squadron of 30 small craft dove into the Imperial formation like hunters among prey. The fighters moved in ways that violated every known law of physics, bending space around themselves to avoid enemy fire while delivering precise strikes. Blue Squadron, target the command carrier in Sector 7, Seungho ordered. Disable their communications array. His fighters responded instantly. They wove through clouds of Imperial fire, their shields absorbing hits that should have vaporized them. Within seconds, they reached their target and fired. The massive Imperial carrier's communication systems went dark. The same scene played out across the battlefield. Human forces, vastly outnumbered, dominated completely. Their technology was so far advanced that the battle wasn't even close. It was like watching adults fight children. Rear Admiral Nari commanded the stealth division of the human fleet. Her ships were invisible to Imperial sensors. She had positioned them behind the Imperial formation before the battle even started. Now, at Admiral Hyan's signal, they attacked. 40 stealth frigates appeared from nowhere, materializing in the middle of the Imperial fleet's rear guard. They had jumped through space itself, bypassing all defenses. Their appearance caused panic and confusion. Imperial ships fired in all directions, often hitting their own allies. All stealth units, disable command ships, Nari ordered. Target the big ones. Her frigates moved like ghosts through the Imperial fleet, striking at the largest vessels. Imperial dreadnoughts, massive ships that were the pride of the Empire's navy, found their systems failing one by one. Communications went dark. Weapons powered down. Shields collapsed. The ships remained intact, but they were helpless. After just 1 hour of battle, Supreme Commander Thelvrax realized the horrible truth. They were losing, despite having 2 million ships against 50,000. The Empire was being systematically dismantled. "Pull back," he ordered. "All ships retreat." But the human fleet had surrounded them, not physically, but through technology. They had created a field that prevented Imperial ships from jumping to faster-than-light speeds. The Empire's forces were trapped. Admiral Hyan stood and walked to the communication station. "Open a channel to all Imperial ships, all frequencies." The channel opened. Suddenly, every screen on every Imperial ship showed the same image. A human admiral with gray hair and calm eyes. "This is Admiral Hyan of the Terran United Fleet," he said. His voice was firm, but not cruel. "Your commander ordered you to attack us without provocation. You have seen the result. We could destroy your entire fleet. We have the capability, but we don't want to." On his flagship, Thelvrax watched with growing horror as Hyan continued. "We didn't return to this part of the galaxy to conquer," Hyan said. "We came back to rejoin the galactic community. We only want to live in peace. But we will defend ourselves. We will not be bullied. We will not be threatened." The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in. Across the Imperial fleet, crew members listened. Many of them had joined the military, believing they were protecting the Empire. Now they were beginning to question what they were really fighting for. "I am giving you a choice," Hyan continued. "Stand down your weapons. Power down your shields. Accept our terms for peaceful negotiation, or continue fighting and learn exactly how powerful humanity has become. The choice is yours. You have 10 minutes to decide." The transmission ended. Silence fell across both fleets. 10 minutes seemed like an eternity. Aboard the Defiance, Admiral Gina stood beside Hyan. "Do you think they'll surrender?" "Some will," Hyan replied. "Others won't. But we've made our point. We're not aggressive. We're not cruel. We're just strong." Captain Taiyang was monitoring the Imperial fleet. "Admiral, we're seeing movement. Some ships are powering down, but others are charging weapons again." "Let them decide individually," Hyan said. "Any ship that stands down is protected. Any ship that continues to fight will be disabled." In his command center, Supreme Commander Thelvrax faced the hardest decision of his life. Pride told him to keep fighting. Logic told him it was hopeless. His officers looked to him for guidance. General Vex spoke quietly. "Sir, if we continue, we'll lose everything. If we surrender, we might salvage something." "The Empire has never surrendered," Thelvrax said. "Then perhaps it's time the Empire learned humility," Vex replied. The 10 minutes ended. Across the Imperial fleet, about 40% of the ships powered down their weapons. They had chosen survival over pride. The remaining 60%, loyal to the end, prepared for one final assault. Admiral Hyan sighed. So be it. All ships, disable the hostile vessels. No unnecessary casualties. The human fleet moved again. This time, they were faster, more aggressive. They had given the Empire a chance to choose peace. Now they would enforce it. Within 30 minutes, every remaining hostile Imperial ship was disabled. Not destroyed, but rendered completely helpless. The battle was over. The Dalvex Empire, which had ruled for 10,000 years, had been defeated by 50,000 human ships. The unthinkable had happened not in the aftermath. As disabled Imperial ships floated in space waiting for rescue, one transmission reached the Defiance. It was from Supreme Commander Thelvrax himself. Admiral Hyan. Thelvrax's voice was bitter. You have won. What are your terms? Hyan looked at the screen, showing the defeated commander. He felt no triumph, only sadness that it had come to this. My terms are simple, Hyan replied. Mutual recognition, technology exchange treaties, and a guarantee that no species will be subjugated or exploited by the Empire ever again. A new galactic order based on cooperation instead of domination. And if we refuse, then we'll enforce it ourselves, Hyan said calmly. We didn't want this fight, but now that you've seen what we can do, you know we can back up our words. The Empire can adapt and join us as equals, or it can fall apart trying to maintain control it no longer has. The choice is yours. Thelvrax's screen went dark. The Empire would need time to process what had happened. But the message was clear. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, and everything had changed. 3 weeks after the battle, the political landscape of the galaxy had changed completely. Supreme Commander Thelvrax was forced to resign in disgrace. The Imperial Council, facing pressure from dozens of conquered species who saw the Empire's weakness, voted to restructure their entire government. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Dalvex Empire was vulnerable. On the neutral station of Vertex Prime, peace talks began. The station was old, built by an ancient species long gone, and it had traditionally been used for diplomatic meetings. Now it hosted the most important negotiation in galactic history. Admiral Gina led the human delegation. She was joined by Ambassador Mina, a diplomat from Earth, who had been sent as soon as Earth learned about the Long March survivors. Mina was young and nervous, but she represented the original human homeworld with pride. I still can't believe you exist, Mina said to Gina as they prepared for the first meeting. For 200 years, we thought the Long March was lost. We mourned your ancestors. And here you are, with the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. We thought about Earth every day, Gina replied. Even after 2,000 years, we never forgot where we came from. That's why we came back. The Imperial delegation was led by a new council of representatives from various species. The Dalvex had lost their absolute control. Now, species that had been conquered centuries ago had voices in the government. It was chaotic, but it was progress. The first meeting was tense. Both sides sat across from each other in a large conference room. Human officers on one side, Imperial representatives on the other. Captain Yuna, who had defected to the human side, sat with the humans as an advisor. Her presence angered some of the Imperial delegates. You are a traitor to the Empire. One delegate hissed at Yuna. I'm loyal to what's right, Yuna replied calmly. The Empire tried to destroy innocent people without provocation. I couldn't be part of that. Admiral Gina began the negotiations. We're here to establish a new relationship. Humanity wants peace, but we also want recognition. The regions of space we claim are ones we've settled and developed over the past 2,000 years. They're legitimately ours. An Imperial delegate, a being named Corv, responded. You claim half of the Outer Rim. That's thousands of systems. The Empire has interests in those regions. The Empire abandoned those regions centuries ago, Commander Do-Yun interjected. He had done extensive research on Imperial history. Your records show that you deemed them too far away to be worth defending. We settled them because they were empty. The negotiations went on for days. Both sides argued over borders, trade rights, technology exchanges, and political recognition. It was exhausting work, but slowly progress was made. Ambassador Mina proved to be surprisingly effective. She spoke with a passion that moved even hardened imperial politicians. "We're not asking for domination," she said during one heated session. "We're asking for respect. Humanity survived alone for 2,000 years. We built our civilization from nothing. We earned our place in this galaxy. All we want is for you to acknowledge that." On the 5th day of negotiations, a breakthrough came. The Imperial delegation agreed to recognize human territorial claims. In exchange, humanity agreed to share some of their technology and provide military assistance if the Empire faced external threats. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The most difficult part was addressing the Empire's treatment of conquered species. For thousands of years, the Empire had absorbed other civilizations, sometimes peacefully, often by force. Now, humanity demanded reforms. Every species deserves self-determination, Admiral Gina insisted. The Empire can't continue to rule over unwilling subjects. If we give everyone independence, the Empire will collapse, Korv argued. There will be chaos. Then let there be chaos, Gina replied. It's better than tyranny. Eventually, a compromise was reached. The Empire would grant autonomy to willing member species. Those who wanted to leave could do so. Those who wanted to stay would have representation in imperial government. It was revolutionary. While the political talks continued, Captain Taiyang and Commander Do-Hyun worked on a different project. They were organizing meetings between the Long March descendants and humans from Earth. Families separated by 2,000 years were being reunited, in a way. One such meeting took place on the Defiance. A group of Earth scientists came aboard to meet their distant cousins. Among them was a young physicist named Dr. Hana, who specialized in quantum mechanics. She met with engineer Suji, the woman who had shown the Imperial scientists humanity's zero-point energy technology. "Your equations are beautiful," Dr. Hana said, reviewing Suji's work. "We've been working on similar concepts on Earth, but we're centuries behind you." "You'll catch up," Suji said with a smile. "You have the same human curiosity we do. You just need time and resources. We can help with both." The two women spent hours talking about physics, engineering, and the nature of reality. Despite being separated by 2,000 years of history, they connected instantly. They were both human, both driven by the same desire to understand the universe. Similar meetings happened across the fleet. Soldiers met soldiers. Teachers met teachers. Artists met artists. The Long March descendants shared their culture, their history, their achievements with their Earth cousins. And Earth humans shared what had happened in the galaxy during the time they were gone. General Juno organized a joint military exercise between Earth's small defense force and the Long March fleet. It was meant to be a friendly demonstration, but it turned into a teaching moment. The Earth soldiers were brave and well-trained, but their equipment was outdated. Junho spent days showing them how to use more advanced weapons and tactics. "You have good instincts," Junho told one young Earth soldier named Private Seok. "You just need better tools. We'll make sure you get them." On Dalvex Prime, the political upheaval continued. The new Imperial Council struggled to maintain order as conquered species demanded their freedom. Some systems declared independence immediately. Others chose to negotiate new terms with the Empire. A few remained loyal, preferring the stability of imperial rule over the uncertainty of independence. The galaxy was changing, and not everyone was happy about it. There were protests, riots, and in a few cases, violence. But Admiral Hyon had prepared for this. The human fleet divided into smaller task forces, each assigned to help maintain peace in different regions. They didn't act as conquerors or enforcers. They acted as peacekeepers, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Captain Sungho led one such task force to a system where two rival species were fighting over territorial claims. His squadron arrived to find both sides preparing for war. Instead of choosing a side, Sungho arranged a meeting between the leaders. "You're both wasting resources on a conflict that benefits neither of you," Sungho told them. "Instead of fighting, why not cooperate? This system is large enough for both your species." It took weeks of mediation, but eventually the two species agreed to share the system. It was a small victory, but it mattered. Across the galaxy, similar small victories were happening. After 2 months of intense work, the peace treaty was finalized. It was signed on Vertex Prime in a ceremony attended by representatives from hundreds of species. Admiral Gina and Ambassador Mina signed for humanity. The new Imperial Council signed for the Empire. It was historic. President Hana of the Terran Federation, Earth's leader, attended via holographic link. She gave a speech that was broadcast across the entire galaxy. "Today marks a new beginning," President Hana said. "For too long, this galaxy has been ruled by fear and force. Today, we choose a different path. We choose cooperation. We choose respect. We choose peace. Humanity has returned to the stars, and we bring with us a message. We are stronger together than apart." The ceremony ended with celebrations on hundreds of worlds. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking to each other. Trade routes opened. Cultural exchanges began. It wasn't perfect, and there were still problems, but it was progress. Admiral Hyon, now in his final days of active service, watched the celebrations from the Defiance. He had decided to retire and write the full history of the Long March's journey. Future generations needed to know what had happened, what humanity had achieved. Commander Sora found him standing alone on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "You did it, Admiral. You brought us home." "We did it together," Hyon corrected. "Every person who survived those 2,000 years, every generation that refused to give up, they all contributed to this moment. What will you do now?" Sora asked. "I'll write," Hyon said. "And I'll remind people that we didn't become strong by conquering others. We became strong by surviving together, by innovating together, by refusing to abandon our humanity even when we were alone in the dark." The human fleet began to disperse. Some ships returned to Earth. Others went back to the colonies the Long March descendants had established. A few remained as part of a new galactic defense force, ensuring that the peace would last. Captain Yuna chose to stay with the humans. She joined a new organization called the Galactic Mediation Corps, which worked to resolve conflicts peacefully. Her experience with both the Empire and humanity made her uniquely qualified for the work. Dr. Minho, the science officer who had first scanned the human fleet, was given a position at the new Galactic Research Institute. There, he worked alongside human scientists, learning their techniques and sharing Imperial knowledge. It was the kind of cooperation that could benefit everyone. On Earth, humanity celebrated the return of their lost cousins. Parades were held in every major city. Museums created exhibits about the Long March's journey. Schools taught about the 2,000-year Odyssey and the lessons it held. But the most important change was in how humanity saw itself. For 200 years, Earth's humans had felt small and insignificant in a galaxy full of older, more powerful species. Now they knew the truth. When pushed to their limits, when forced to survive alone, humanity had not just endured, they had thrived. They had built a civilization that surpassed everything the galaxy had known. The question that had haunted the Empire was finally answered. Yes, that massive armada was human. It was humanity at its finest, forged in isolation, tempered by hardship, and unbreakable in spirit. Doc and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Years later, Admiral Hyan finished his chronicle. The last line he wrote was simple but powerful. We went into the darkness as refugees. We returned as legends. And we proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our refusal to give up, no matter how long the night. The book became required reading across human space and beyond. Species throughout the galaxy studied it, trying to understand what made humanity so resilient. The answer was always the same. They adapted, they innovated, and they never stopped hoping for a better future. The new dawn had come. The galaxy had changed. And humanity, both from Earth and from the Long March, stood together, ready to face whatever challenges the future held.